Hello, you've caught me psyching myself up before I attempt what is, for me, one of the most difficult day-to-day tasks in the world. Untying my shoelaces without knotting them. Nope, that's me hamstrung for the next 30 minutes or so. It happens to the best of us though, doesn't it? We've all got those little tasks that should be a breeze, but that fill us with unbearable dread. Opening a letter without ripping it, perhaps. Threading a key onto a keyring. Putting together flat pack furniture using the simple instructions provided. And then we've got video games, a wonderful medium where it's possible to blunder your way through a not inconsiderable portion of most titles without knowing some of the most basic mechanics. Here are 7 times we couldn't figure out the simplest things in games and felt like massive idiots. Has anyone got any scissors? I think I'm going to have to cut myself out of these. Our first entry is one of Dave's, and he's annoyingly gone on holiday this week, so I can't even write an embarrassing skit with which to shame him. So I'll have to make do with sticking this drawing of him on his chair instead. So yes, Dave's episode of laughable gaming failure happened in Eco, a game he saw me playing for last week's Friday feature, which obviously reminded him of the time he first played it and failed to grasp the most basic of the game's very few mechanics. If I asked you what 3 things you do moment to moment in Eco, what would you say? Running, yes, well done, Dave managed that. Climbing and jumping, again, we got there. Holding Yorda's hand and guiding her through the castle. Come on, slow down. One thing at a time. That's right, it took Dave about 2 hours to realise you could simply press R1 and have Eco hold Yorda's hand. Just have a little think about what that would mean for him as he struggled through those opening 2 hours, where good players have already earned the Castle Guide trophy and finished the game. Dave was still trying to coax Yorda through a soup of shadow creatures by, I don't know, what was he trying? A weird little jumpy jig. Come on, this way, come on Yorda. Why don't you want to follow me? Now, before I wrote this video, I put the question to the PlayStation Access community on Twitter. What are the simplest things in games you didn't figure out for ages? The responses were as numerous as they were hilarious, although seriously, Kirk, how did you play Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance without realising you could dodge? That's like playing Crash Bandicoot and not realising you can jump anyway. The most popular response by far was people not realising they could sprint and or fast travel in just about every game you can think of. There was one lunatic who completed Dead Space just by walking, which must have been absolutely horrifying. If that was you, then well done, actually. Others didn't realise you could fast travel in games like Red Dead Redemption. Chloe Haynes, for instance, stared at that horse's ass for way longer than necessary. Our second entry goes to Skyrim, however, a game that I think really would be the most difficult to play without sprinting and or using fast travel, simply because of how ridiculously big it is. At lower levels you need to sprint as well, because that's how you play Skyrim, isn't it? Ignore the story, wander off into a cave in the middle of nowhere as a level 1 noob guard, encounter obscenely high level enemy, run away with your rusty iron sword between your legs. But playing it without fast travel as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love not fast travelling in RPGs. Nothing beats that sense of personal satisfaction you feel having hiked over half a mountain range to reach the next story beat. But it's really not practical to play the entire game like this, especially when you get to that bit that's in all Elder Scrolls games where you have to round up the leaders of each territory in order to hold back the advance of something evil. Thanks for agreeing to help me, Jarl of Riften. Now I'm off to everywhere else. I hope I get there before the bad thing happens. Bye. Our next entry is the inspiration for this entire video. We were all casually working away in the office the other week. I was busy editing, Dave was getting in the onesie for the umpteenth time in a row, Delsin was being inactive because he's a puppet and isn't really alive, while Nathan was busy dropping this truth bomb.
I played Dark Souls for 20 hours before I realised you could lock onto enemies.
20 hours? He beat the Taurus demon, he beat the bell gargoyles, he did other stuff too that I wouldn't know because I never got past the bell gargoyles.
And he did all that flailing about hitting mid-air mostly. I mean, I would mock Nathan here and gladly, but to his credit he has actually finished Dark Souls, and I've long ago made peace with the fact I never will, so as much as this pains me to say it, well done Nathan for finishing Dark Souls after playing nearly half of it, not realising you could lock on. Entry number 4 is from another popular response we got on Twitter, and that is people not realising about VATS in Fallout 3. My response is, how? You have to pretty stubbornly ignore almost the entire opening hour of the game to not learn about VATS, or Vault-Tec Assisted Targeting System, the mechanic that underpins Fallout's entire combat system, and that enables you to target specific body parts in slow motion, crippling limbs, popping off heads, and generally making a beautiful gory mess of anyone foolish enough to get in your way.
Without VATS, you have to play Fallout like an actual shooter instead of a nice, easy shooter RPG.
Again, kudos to you if you actually were A, silly enough, and B, skillful enough to play through either Fallout 3 or Fallout 4 without using VATS. That is pretty hardcore. But not only do you miss out on the ace tactical combat, more importantly, you miss those wonderfully gratuitous slow-mo kill cams, raiders bursting apart in a joyful shower of guts and grizzle. Honestly though, I don't know how you can miss VATS. I mean, it's such a major part of the game. Missing VATS is like, I don't know, missing the fact you can hold Yorda's hand in eco. Entry number 5, and we're staying with massive Bethesda RPGs, although this time we're going back to Cyrodiil in the wonderful Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, an absolute gem of a game and the first role-playing game of its kind I ever played. Before this, my gaming diet consisted of the likes of Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Grandia, Breath of Fire, the Tales series, Wild Arms, you know, games where you take it in turns to bully low-level enemies, smash them into EXP paste, and then watch as your character powers through the levels, getting stronger and stronger and stronger.
Oblivion's levelling system was different though, and I admit I didn't quite understand how it worked when I first played it.
In Oblivion, you pick your class, you make your character as handsome as the game will allow, and you choose 7 major skills. To level up, you need to improve these skills, and when you've improved any combination of them 10 times, you're eligible to level up. I got this, you know, I'm not stupid. I picked sword skills and armor skills and running about skills as mages, so I'd level up simply by running around hitting things and having things hit me. What I didn't realise for a fairly embarrassing amount of time is that to actually go through the physical act of levelling up, you had to sleep.
The game probably tells you this during one of its loading screens, but I don't look at loading screens. To me, every loading screen says, time to go to the fridge.
So yeah, I was level 1 in Oblivion for quite a while, struggling through the early quests with minimal health and terrible armour. Although, because the game scales the difficulty of opponents to your level, I was fighting basic level bandits all the time, so what I actually did was a genius level tactical move to give myself an added edge in combat.
Genius.
Not so genius is entry number 6, whereby I played Resident Evil 7 for a substantial amount of time without realising you could do a 180-degree turn, which now I know you can do it is like a godsend. I mean, I don't worry about walking into one of the bakers now because I can just poof, 180-degree turn.
It's so simple. All you have to do is pull back on the left stick and press circle.
And for hours I didn't know you could do it. Every time danger jump scared me in the face, I'd haul myself around like a cargo ship trying to escape a rogue wave, exposing my side for way too long, just accepting a couple of hits as a matter of course. You know, it's a slow-moving survival horror game. Every move is ponderous by design. Even when you run, you're not moving that fast. It's almost like you're trying to escape monsters in a nightmare, sprinting through glue while shovel-wielding lunatics breathe down your neck.
So I kind of figured there wasn't a 180-degree turn like in Resident Evil 4 because, you know, Resident Evil 4 was an action game. It ran at a quicker pace.
Jack Baker, hang on. Let me turn around just a bit more. There we go. Now you can chase me. Our final entry isn't really a simple thing, if I'm honest, but I have to include the junction system from Final Fantasy VIII because in my first playthrough, I literally blundered my way right to Ultimacia without having a clue how it worked. I was never able to beat Griever though. His shockwave pulsar would rip me to shreds, my GFs annihilated, and my sword arm weak as a level 1 bite bug because I had cure magic junctioned to my strength stat.
I knew how to junction GFs onto myself, but that was pretty much it. All the stat boosting stuff was just in one ear, out the other.
Yeah, I know Quistis explains it all to you at the start, but I was 11 and also an idiot. All I heard was blah 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 blah. Blah 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 blabbity blabbity woobly woo blah 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 blah.
In fact, it wasn't until I accidentally junctioned 100 Curagas to Squall's HP and it shot up from 2,000 to 7,000 that I realised, oh my god, you raise stats by junctioning relevant magic to them.
Yes, curative spells are best for HP. Attacking spells are good for strength. GFs actually become pretty redundant in battle once you're strong enough to deal 9999 damage with your sword. They're basically there to boost your power, not to be summoned, and so I started the game from the beginning, had more HP by the time I got to Timber than I did when previously at Ultimacia's castle, and ultimately carved her up with a max damage Lionheart attack made possible by junctioning Meteor to my strength stat. Initially though, I went a good 70 hours without understanding the basics of how to build your characters. Go me. So there we go, 7 times we couldn't figure out the simplest things in games and felt like a massive idiot afterwards. Now it's your turn to confess in the comments. Come on, let it out. Tell us about when you failed to grasp the fundamentals of the game you were playing. I won't laugh hard. While you're at it, leave us a like if you enjoyed this video, watch another one by clicking one of the links on screen, and subscribe if you're not already so you don't miss any more of these videos every Friday. Thanks for watching, and see you next week.